I want to take a few minutes and talk to you about the way we score shooters at DallyPost Tactical Challenges, because we do this a little bit different than what has become normal and acceptable. There are many organizations, good organizations, that started out to be practical pistol or rifle shooting organizations. Their focus was to be on doing things in a way that is correct and right and could save the life of a shooter. But over time, gaming started to become too important. And as gaming becomes important, shooters start chasing the clock. They gave up being tactically correct in order to be really fast. And so if they can shoot and get holes in paper, and if they can do it really fast, they will win. But at what cost? It's my opinion that tactics were sacrificed in order to play the game. We focus a little bit differently. All of our shooters are scored based on 3 criteria. First is accuracy. If accuracy is not there, why are you even carrying a gun? Because it's just going to get you in trouble. If you can't stop the threat will possibly stop you. Second are tactics. Tactics are extremely important, because not only do you have a threat out there that you need to possibly stop, but you kind of want to make it difficult for him to stop you. And that's what tactics do, is they make you a difficult target. The third one is time. Now, like I said, our shooters are scored on the 3 things: accuracy, tactics, and time. But we ignore time, and we focus on accuracy and tactics. Why? We do that because time is actually a byproduct of good accuracy and tactics. If a shooter is dedicated enough to develop really strong fundamental shooting skills that will see him through a lot of stressful situations and difficult situations and various shooting positions, and if the shooter also puts in an identical amount of effort to perfect those tactical skills, time is a byproduct. As the muscle memory and the mind starts to click and things start to come together, the shooter will get faster, time will be there. If, on the other hand, you do things in the opposite way, focusing on time first, then other things will be sacrificed, primarily tactics. And that's no good, at least in our opinion. So before I can tell you how we score a shooter, I need to introduce you to a concept that is unique to DallyPost. We call it the tactical load. Now, the tactical load is simply a number that represents the number of rounds that a shooter is bringing to the range. For example, a tactical load of 2 by 8 means that the shooter is bringing 2 magazines, with each magazine uploaded to 8 rounds, for a total of 16 rounds. 3 by 5, that would mean 3 magazines, each uploaded to 5, for a total of 15 rounds. Now, there are a few challenges where the tactical load is declared by the challenge itself and everybody shoots the same. But that's not the rule, that's the exception. Most of the time, a shooter comes to the range or comes to the challenge and declares his own tactical load. The minimum tactical load is 2 by 5 or 10 rounds. And the maximum tactical load a shooter can declare is 3 by 10 or 30 rounds. So when we have a challenge, we will see shooters come to the range, and each shooter will declare a different tactical load and shoot a different number of rounds on that same range. Well, first of all, how can you do that and score everybody on a level playing field? Well, we got that figured out, and I'll share that in a minute. But secondly, why would you even want to do that? Well, first of all, we want to train in a real-world scenario. Now, other organizations, they typically have a division for revolvers, and a division for long revolvers, and a division for unlimited, and a division for 1911s, and a division for high capacity, and a division, and a division, and a division. Oh, in the real world, in a real gunfight, how many divisions are there? There's only one. And so if you have somebody out there in the real world, in a real situation, who's carrying a .38 snub with 5 rounds on board, and that's all he's got, well, that's all he's got, and he's got to deal with that. And he may be facing someone with a double stack with 30, 35 rounds. That's the real world. That's the world we live in, and so that's the world we train in. Now, the way we score shooters is a shooter will master a challenge if the credits he earns are equal to his tactical load. So again, back to this example of 3 times 5 or 15 rounds, the shooter must earn 15 credits. However, if it's 3 times 10, well, these are 9mm or 1911 mags. I don't guess you'll get 10 in there. But if it was 3 times 10, that's 30 rounds. And so that shooter, in order to master the challenge, must get 30 credits. So here's how it works. Typically, we shoot a target that has around 4-inch A zone, around 8-inch B zone, and around 12-inch C zone. But we accept any target that has an A that's 4 inches, round or square, 8 inches, round or square for the B zone, and a C zone that's 12 inches, round or square. So in this case, this is simply an IDPA target that I had sitting around, and I marked it up so that we can use it in our challenges. Now, a shooter gets 2 credits for an A zone hit, and the shooter gets 1 credit for a B zone hit. Nothing for anything else. And that's typically how we do that for most of our challenges. So you can see that if a shooter goes, again with a tactical load of 3 times 5 or 15 rounds, he goes 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and then throws a few, he would have his 15 credits, and so he masters the challenge. Now, we have disadvantage scoring as well, which we use for certain challenges. And these are challenges where the shooter is shooting at a disadvantage. One is our dynamic movement challenge, where the shooter is moving and he's shooting a target that is also moving at the same time. That gets a little tougher. Other disadvantage challenges, we have point shoot challenges, where we tape over the rear sight, so the shooter has to point shoot. We have weak hand only, strong hand only, and other disadvantage challenges. Any disadvantage challenges, we simply open it up and they get 2 credits for anything inside the B zone and 1 credit for anything inside the C zone. Now remember, I told you we focus on 2 things, accuracy and tactics. Well, accuracy is getting the hits here in the center where you can earn credits. But as you move up through the challenge system, the challenges become more difficult, and there will be more and more requirements, tactical requirements, that the shooter must complete. If the shooter skips something that he needs to do, or if the shooter tries something and bobbles it, he gets a penalty. Every penalty earned costs you a 2-point credit. And so accuracy alone won't get you there, because your goofy tactics will take all those 2-point credits away. And likewise, tactics alone won't get you there if you're spraying bullets everywhere. So the 2 have to be in play. Now, I told you that time plays into our final score. Now, like I said, time has no bearing on whether a shooter masters a challenge or not and can move to the next one. But it has every bearing on a shooter's final score. The shooter's final score is the number of credits earned per second. And so a high score of 1.25 means the shooter earned 1 1/4 credits per second while he was out there, while a final score of 0.5 means that he earned half a credit for every second that he was out there. And so we use time, first of all, as a tiebreaker. It's very common to have more than one shooter earn the same amount of credits in a given challenge. And so then there's the tiebreaker. The shooter who earned them faster will be placed above the one who was a little bit slower. The other way we use time is as each shooter completes a challenge, we enter his scores into our database, which is available on our website. And a shooter can go in and look at his scores and see how he placed overall in the challenge. But of more importance is the fact that we actually graph a shooter's performance. And so a shooter can go and look at the graph and see that he's getting better. Or he can look at the graph and see that he's getting worse. And so it gives the shooter a real benchmark from which they can base their training. This list is also filtered, which is really nice. So a shooter can go in and filter it, and he can look at all of his scores for his full-size Glock, for example, and then look at his scores for his compact 1911 and his scores for his revolver, etc. It gives the shooter a way to evaluate a particular weapon system and see which ones he is most efficient with. Pretty cool. So, in a nutshell, every shooter brings their weapon system to the range, and they shoot against every other shooter regardless of the weapon system that that person is shooting. And they simply work to do the best with the weapon system that they have. Now, like I said, how can it be fair if one person is shooting 30 rounds and another is shooting only 10 in the same challenge? Well, the one who is shooting 30 rounds will take longer to work through the challenge because he's got more work to do. And the one who is shooting only 10 will be able to get through the challenge quicker. Remember, the final score is based on the number of credits earned per second. So it all levels out. It's all fair, it's all right. And we're training in a situation that mimics the real world, where we have to fight, perhaps. It is the only right way to do it as far as we're concerned. I hope you agree.